All right. So we're here to do the news, and I've got the first link here, which I thought was very interesting. This thing called PrEP. I saw posters for this all around San Francisco, and I didn't even know what it was. But what it is a drug you take that prevents you from passing on HIV. So people that have HIV have less risk of infecting other people. And it turns out to be extremely effective. But the problem is that in the UK, you only have to pay £26 a month for it. In the US, you have to pay $1,600 a month for it. And it demonstrates, once again, the insanity of our medical system. So people in the US cannot afford to take it. And so this is the way most of our medical policies are. We don't pay for prevention, so we have to pay 10 times as much later for treatment. It's
one thing I was going to mention. It actually stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis, and they give it to people who are in high-risk communities that haven't contracted it yet. So it isn't actually for people that already have it to pass it on.
Oh, you see, that means both that it's more important and also that it's more expensive, because now a bunch of people take it that don't already have it.
Yep.
Well, that would be a really good thing to fund, like the flu shot.
I'm pretty sure that at least in California, public health does provide for it, given you meet certain risk criteria. And I know somebody who was a veteran, and the VA was paying for it for them. So I think it just depends on kind of the luck of the draw, what doctor you get. It seems like one of those things where, kind of like Plan B or birth control for teenagers, it just really makes sense to make it available.
Well, this is what really bothers me. I saw the news that the company hit $1 trillion in wealth in America. The fourth company hit $1 trillion, and we don't even take care of our people with basic medical and housing. It is ridiculous. We totally need to get rid of the Republicans and have somebody socialist like Bernie or Warren in there who will give us a safety net again, because this is shameful. We should be taking care of people in these basic ways. We shouldn't have only the rich get health care and the poor just die of HIV, preventable disease in America. This is crazy. Anyway.
I agree. Though I'm not yet convinced that it's a political party thing, because, working with high schoolers in San Francisco, I saw way too many homeless high school students, which that just shouldn't be a thing. I was talking to other teachers. I was just in New Zealand, and I was talking to some other teachers there, and they were just completely scandalized and shocked. Like, that just doesn't happen there. There are too many, of course they have a smaller population, but they have too many safety nets to let kids fall through the cracks like that.
Well, yeah, but I think the safety net is the number one partisan issue. The Republicans totally want to end it, and the Democrats totally want to increase it. I think abortion and gun control are the only other issues that are absolutely as clear partisan divide.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have that kind of, be able to, just like you said, like the flu shot for everybody here.
Yeah.
Something that's not expensive but helps everybody. Helps the community, the population at large.
Yeah, it would make us richer because we would prevent the huge expenditure of dealing with the problem later.
Exactly. Right. I think people who advocate against publicly available healthcare really don't think about the long-term costs or the benefits in terms of, like, herd immunity, for example.
Yeah.
It helps everybody. When you get your kids vaccinated, it helps everyone.
Yeah. Anyway, you got this.
Oh, it's the same with security.
Yeah. Yep.
We're all about preventing, not reacting. We'll do both, but it's much cheaper.
I would like to say that, but the problem is the security solutions we offer are far less provably effective. That's a weakness in our business. So this is an important one. I saw versions of this one, Liz, where Apple supposedly didn't encrypt the iCloud backups.
Right. I thought this was pretty interesting, just because they had been planning on doing this for quite some time. And one thing I noticed was it wasn't just pressure from our government, but pressure from other governments as well, including the UK. It doesn't mention that in the story, but I thought it was kind of interesting. It really it really shows, at least according to this story, who knows if it's the real story or not, but it really shows that, the government really does have some successful influence over big companies like Apple because, according to the sources quoted in the story, Apple, the quote was they decided they weren't going to poke the bear anymore because they'd been fighting with the government back and forth over this for some time, and they finally said, okay, fine, we're not going to do fully encrypted iCloud backups. So it'll be interesting to see what they do instead.
Well, I thought they didn't do that for a simple tech support reason. I mean, if you lose your phone and you want to recover from your backup, you might not remember your PIN, and then you're hosed. I mean,
right.
So how do they handle someone that forgets their PIN?
Well, and that was another one of the an Apple employee quoted in the story basically said that was the reason that they did it. So
that's what I thought.
Who knows what the real answer is. It may be a little bit of both.
Yeah, and I'm always on the right-wing fascist side here. It seems to me like Apple is just posturing to give a public impression of privacy, because in fact you can hack right through this stuff with Cellebrite and Gray Key and Elcomsoft. So their stuff is not secure anyway. They just won't let the government in because they don't put in backdoors under their control. So there's just hackers hacking in out of their control. So I don't quite know if there's any reality in this extreme privacy posture they've taken.
Yeah, I don't know either. They claimed that they still kept some info encrypted, like passwords and health information. Passwords, I get how you'd keep that encrypted with keychain, though that's hackable too. However, the health info, I'm not entirely sure how you'd differentiate that and make sure that you're encrypting all the health information on somebody's backup.
Yeah.
Right. All this data comes in and out, like the wearable stuff. How are they differentiating that? Because that's connecting to their phone, and then the phone is backing up. So are they looking into the backups of everything and splitting up in that way? What?
Exactly. Yeah. Or people who take screenshots of their test results from the doctor or something like that. I don't really know how they can definitively say that. Maybe, they're saying, yeah, we're encrypting health info that we collected off of your Apple Watch or something, but.
Well, there was a time when all that data was just in a folder printed on paper at the hospital, and people could look at it if they were authorized to do so, and they just had to lock the cabinet and not let them in unless they had a search warrant or a hospital staff. I think we're creating this artificial illusion of absolute privacy that we never had, and pretending we need it when we never needed it. And when you interview people on the street on Britain, they say, if the government has to read my email to catch terrorists, that's okay. I think people have gone overboard with this stuff. But anyway, let's go on to Irvin. You got, this one, the Microsoft one. Yeah, this was pretty big news.
Yeah, 250 million support accounts went out, and this was Microsoft's response to it all. The funny line that I like is almost towards the end. Misconfigurations are unfortunately a common error across the industry. Yeah. So, we make mistakes too. We're human. Don't kill us.
Well, I was impressed by the defense in depth. It didn't leak like passwords or credit card numbers because it was automatically redacted. So that's pretty nice. But it shows that Microsoft managed to accomplish about approximately the same thing as an open Amazon bucket on their own servers.
Right. Amazon is not the only one.
Everybody says the number one concern of moving to the cloud is security for just this reason.
Yep.
People keep on losing all that data.
Well, they just don't secure it. They just put it out there because, convenient and easy to get to. So there.
I'm moving everything to the cloud too. And by the way, I was just telling, I just want to mention it in case you have teachers that are watching this. We lost the ability to make Google Cloud Microsoft Windows machines for free, but you can sign up for Google Cloud vouchers, and then each student gets a $50 voucher. So it amounts to the same thing for us.
Yep.
But anyway, so this I thought was bloody awesome. I saw this right before we started. So Safari has an anti-tracking feature, but instead of just removing all the identifying information, it makes a database of every website and makes up special lies to tell each website, and then keeps them consistent so they can still track you. So it is so intelligent, it undoes its own purpose. So they just create a different random footprint for every site. So they're still tracking you. So it's kind of amazing and stupid. This reminds me of IP version 6. When IP version 6 first came out, it would auto-configure an address by putting your MAC address in it. And then people said, hey, what? My MAC address? Wait. And then they had to have an optional privacy extension to make that random. Anyway.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, shooting yourself in the foot. Being too smart.
Let's take our identity by making another identity and just keep track of it.
Yes, exactly. And so, oh, is that this one here? The same thing?
Yeah, same thing.
Oh,
I just
okay.
linked to the actual, that's the actual
Yeah,
white paper from the security researchers that shows if you click on the PDF only over on the right side of the page, it just takes you to the actual published research that they did on this, which I thought was pretty interesting. So yeah, that's just makes sense we would accidentally duplicate that one because it's a good story. It's just a really good example of the way that we can hose ourselves with the way with things that we think are going to protect us.
Yes, yes. All right. And so you've got, you guys had another competition. I didn't know about this one.
Yeah, we had our first of 2 regionals on January 11th.
Okay.
This was because it was off the semester. We didn't have any community colleges participate.
Oh, okay.
So it was middle and high school students. The competition was bug bounty.
Yep.
The students were given machines that pretended to be ATM machines with a SQL server on the cloud. So kids had to find as many bugs as they could, write up reports, and talk about their reports in their interview.
Oh, this is great.
That's really cool. Look, and you had an all-female team. That's pretty impressive too.
An all-female team won. We had 2 all-female teams, one in middle school, one in high school, and the high school one got first place.
That's amazing.
In CPTC, the teams with the most women always seem to score the highest. I think there's a huge argument for the value of diversity. Yeah, I'm glad to see this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to do more of it.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm down to this one. Oh, yeah. So the betting firms, they were granted access to the data of children, and they used it to boost the number of young gamblers. So this reminds me of the cigarette companies in America that made Joe Camel and carefully planned to sell their cigarettes to children. This is in Britain. And so they got the names and addresses of these children in schools collected in Britain and used it to coerce them to gamble online. This was a breach of government data. And I don't think they have a clear explanation of how they got it. I know in America, DMV just sells you data to advertisers, and there are many breaches of those records. So this is sort of like the Facebook scandal here with Cambridge Analytica, but without a private company with government data in it. So I think there will be more consequences for governments doing this directly.
That's sort of especially interesting, though, because I remember talking to my high schoolers a couple of years ago, and I don't know, we were just having a classroom discussion about what the issues facing the youth of today are. For my generation, it was more of a sex and drugs scare, but for kids today, it's gambling. That's the issue. Even here in San Francisco, that's the problematic issue that they're dealing with, which really kind of surprised me because I think to myself, well, how do these kids have money to gamble with? And it's either small amounts of money or virtual money, or they're gambling for other stuff. And it's just that was very interesting to me. It was not what I expected to hear.
No, me neither. I've never understood gambling. or sports, really. I think they're related, and I seem to lack the gene for either of them, really. Anyway. Well, you certainly don't want people gambling. It's a huge issue.
Especially teenagers when they really don't have any. I mean, it's bad for anybody, but they really have no concept of what they're getting themselves into at
Yeah,
that age.
right. I would think you'd somehow want to limit how much debt they can build up or something.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so a county with 2 cyber attacks.
Yes. So here's another good example of how things that you do to secure yourself can actually end up causing your downfall in the end. I thought this was pretty good, actually. I think my favorite line from this is that it's in the third paragraph down, where they talk about how they caught the first problem they had. They caught the virus from the company that they'd hired to provide cybersecurity services.
Yeah, well, that's how it all gets in through third-party providers.
Yeah, so awesome, great job, guys. They ended up paying. They ended up paying out. All they said was a 5-figure ransom in Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's what I was saying at the start, which is like different than us in the health community. Our services are not as clearly valuable as they ought to be.
Mm-hmm. And how we don't know how much it was, but however much it was more than 25 grand, because that was their deductible for cyber insurance. So I thought that was, and then it happened again within a couple weeks. So I thought that was pretty interesting. At least though they learned the second time and they had backups. Or I should say they learned after the second time and they had backups the third time.
Well, I must say awareness of cybersecurity is going up and up. When I notified another 80 or 100 companies of vulnerabilities over the last few weeks, and I think several of them responded with intelligent responses. It's up to maybe 10%. It used to be 2%. So more people, when you tell them they have a security problem, they don't just say, shut up, what are you talking about? They have the vaguest clue that might actually matter. So
yeah. I think my other favorite line from this was snark worthy of the register, where they said in a forced return to last century's communication methods, the town sent out a news release regarding the cyber attacks via fax.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, well, that's it. Bomb you back to the Stone Age. All right, and we got North Dakota. You don't hear much about North Dakota.
North Dakota is just one of many examples of the rise in phishing and rise against attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of those, like, just remember that this is happening everywhere, and stay alert.
Yep.
Because it just because you're in education doesn't mean you're safe.
Oh, there are gangs that specifically target government and education.
Right.
I would certainly recommend targeting education because I'm well aware, they say the number one security problem at companies is disorganization without a clear chain of command or policies, and education is at the top of that. Nobody knows who's in charge of anything.
Yeah, I just sent a link there in the chat that relates to what you said, Irvin, because I just seen this this morning, actually, that it's still very successful, as we see. You know, and you'd think, you know, we think sometimes, I think that we're making progress on phishing because it seems like it should be the easiest, seems like it should be the easiest thing to train people on. But this stuff is still really good. And I mean, recently I saw some phishing emails that my parents got, and they're up in their game, you know, like there was only one or two little tiny indicators that I could point out to them, and otherwise it looked pretty dead on, you know. So I can understand how users get taken in by these still.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Users have always been the weak link.
Yep. And it's always a human.
Yeah. Well, on we go. All right. Any more comments? Well, I'm
No.
going to stop the recording then.